everyone, welcome back. Today we are at my chicken coop. I built this about a year ago and just never got around to filling it with critters. I went out yesterday. You're excited. I went out yesterday and bought 3 chickens, put them in here, and we're going to see how they're doing. And I'll give you a quick tour of the chicken coop as well. What I've got going on for feeders and waterers. And a few more interruptions from a baby. Let's get to it. Alright, what we got here is just a simple latch to help keep the kiddos out and the chickens in. Handmade door. Let's see, and there's my ladies right there. I don't know what breed they are. They're just some generic red-brown chickens. That's all I'm going to know. I am definitely not a connoisseur of chickens because they're so small. We have inside of here right now their feed, along with some oyster shell for Scratch. And over here we have just a little small trough of water. Because they're so small, they can't get to the water and feeder that I have underneath. That'll eventually come with time. We have a ramp, nice ramp door here. See if we can get a good shot of that. Okay, and just kind of drops through a portal on the floor. We put pine shavings in here for bedding and just stuff to help clean up for the chicken poop. We've got some plastic little crates for usually a house organization crates, but we're going to use them as their nesting boxes. We got 3 here, and then I did put one back here because it's in the furthest part of that trailer where it'd be really hard for me to reach back there and grab an egg. So just in case they put something in that box, it'll be there so that I can get to it. We're going to slowly over time show you how they grow and when they start laying. Chickens are about 2 months old. They're going to grow fast. They've already lost their downy fluff, little puffball look. They've started to grow some real feathers. They're going to, at this point, grow really, really fast. And they'll be adult size probably, before winter comes. And I'll slowly work with them, try and get them used to us coming around and touching them and stuff, just to make it easier for later on. Alright, so we started off on the side of this chicken coop, and if we go around to the front now, what we have here is a trash can I repurposed into a critter-proof feed storage. And I'll show you what's inside. So in here we have, I believe, 50 pounds of feed. And in this thing, we have the oyster shell, which the oyster shell is for their gullet, because they don't have the same digestive, the ability to chew and break down their food like we do. So they have rocks, they get little tiny rocks or oyster shell or something hard, and they have a muscle in there, and it helps them grind down their food. So, and then we're going to go around this side here, and as they become adults, you're going to be able to, as they become adults, they'll start using these. This is a waterer, and it's going to have the water cups, as you can see down here a little bit. So we'll put water in here, and it'll slowly come down and go into the water cups. They have like a spring and a weight and valve and stuff. These are by Rent-A-Coop. They're really slick. So eventually they'll get tall enough to where they can stick their heads in there and drink out of that. And then we have another product from Rent-A-Coop. Another product from Rent-A-Coop on this side. This is their feeder, and it's got a little port on that side, probably about the size of a baseball, where they can actually stick their head in here and peck out all the feed. And you can fill this all the way up for feed. And you would just do the same thing we did inside, which is mix the feed with their mix the feed and the shells together so that they can eat it properly. This, with the concept that this is going to be a tracking coop, so or a tractor coop, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to be able to drag this around my yard. It'll help prevent rats and critters from coming in and stealing food and getting infestations and stuff like that. I'll sit down and tell you the story about our first chicken coop. What I was going to say outside about the chicken coop, why we've gone to a tractor, is because in some of my videos you may have noticed there's a big red shed outside of my shop, and that used to be our chicken coop. We had about, I think about half a dozen, maybe a couple more chickens and 3 turkeys at one point in time. But what happened was we had a neighbor next door that was apparently a big time trash hoarder, and they had filled a horse arena, which is a very large shop, not too unlike mine, with tons and tons of trash. They filled the house with trash, the stables with trash. Well, they didn't pay their bills or what have you, and the bank repossessed the house. So the neighbors that I have now went in and they were cleaning up everything, and inadvertently there was a rat infestation that they had ended up kicking out of those spaces by cleaning up, which I have no ill will whatsoever. Kudos to them for cleaning up. Only problem was that rat infestation filtered out to my area, and I ended up with a whole lot of chickens getting ate up by rats. The rats were burrowing in underneath of this shop space, which has a concrete pad underneath of it. And they were all kinds of nests and holes coming up through the floors of that red barn, or shed, I mean, outside of my shop. So there's tons of rat holes in it. It just wasn't good living conditions for those chickens by that point. So we ended up deciding that instead of trying to figure out a new way to get the rats under control, because there were just too many of them, we got rid of all the chickens, and we ended up with just sitting on it and not having chickens for, I think we're at 3 years now, because I think it was the first year my son was born. We had chickens, but only just for a short period of time after he was born. I mean, it was so bad that I lifted that shed out there about 6 inches off of the ground onto some concrete blocks, and I was taking a .22 and shooting at them and trying to dispatch rats that way. And I would pull up in the middle of the night from work, and I'd see rats darting across the lawn to and from my garden, my vegetable garden, and I just, was just too much. So now that I built a chicken tractor so that I can take the coop further away from the house in case we start to see a lot of rats coming around. It should prevent it because I plan on keeping it moving all around, so it should prevent a consistent meal for vermin such as rats, so they won't just keep coming around and have a steady meal. That is the biggest problem with chicken coops, is they have a steady meal, and you will eventually end up with rats and mice and stuff. But not to the extent that we had. I mean, we had somebody else's infestation migrated to our house just because, so. But that's my story on a chicken coop disaster. But I do plan on showing you, as time goes by, a little bit more of the chickens, because who doesn't like chickens, right? They're a cool, cute little fowl. We will maybe get one more bird over time. The plan was around 3 or 4 chickens. Don't really want a rooster, but if they have problems laying, I might get a rooster. Just for added effect, I guess. So if I manage to get any pictures of those birds outside of the coop, like underneath, I will go ahead and get you some pictures of those and put them at the end of this here video. Now, we'll see what kind of trouble I can get into next. See you later.